The voices that lifted our spirits, that filled churches with hope and joy, sometimes met endings that seemed impossibly cruel. From plane crashes that claimed entire families to mysterious deaths that sparked investigations, the gospel music world has faced tragedies that left communities reeling. Some of these artists died at the height of their fame, while others passed in ways that raised more questions than answers. What happened in those final moments reveals stories of faith tested, secrets exposed, and lives cut tragically short. Here are 12 shocking gospel artist deaths that changed the music world forever. The Neyland's devastating plane crash. On July 26, 2024, a single-engine plane carrying members of the legendary gospel group the Neylands crashed in Wyoming, killing 7 people instantly. Kelly Neyland Clark, the group's leader and daughter of gospel pioneer Rex Neyland, was traveling with her husband Jason Clark and their daughter Amber Neyland Kistler to attend the Gaither Homecoming Cruise to Alaska. Also killed were Amber's husband Nathan Kistler, the group's assistant Melody Hodges, and the pilots Larry and Melissa Haney. The plane had sent out a distress signal shortly before 1 p.m. Mountain Time, and within minutes, smoke columns were visible from the crash site. The tragedy became even more heartbreaking when details emerged about who survived. Autumn Neyland Streetman, Kelly and Jason's youngest daughter and the 4th member of the quartet, wasn't on the plane. She was pregnant with her first child, due in December. In a statement released days after the crash, Autumn thanked supporters for their prayers while processing the unimaginable loss of her entire immediate family. The Neylands had been inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 2016 and had won 10 GMA Dove Awards throughout their career. Their influence on Southern gospel was immeasurable, and newspapers from the New York Times to The Guardian covered the story. Bill Gaither, the cruise's sponsor, said the family was one of the most loved in gospel music. The National Transportation Safety Board investigation revealed preliminary information indicated an autopilot issue during flight, though the final report could take up to 2 years to complete. Mandisa's mysterious death at 47. When police found American Idol alum and Grammy-winning gospel singer Mandisa dead in her Franklin, Tennessee home on April 18, 2024, the gospel community was stunned. She was just 47 years old. Authorities launched an active death investigation, but the cause of death remained unclear. Her father, John Hundley, told media outlets the news came as a complete shock to the family. Mandisa had competed on Season 5 of American Idol in 2006, making it to the top 9 before launching a successful gospel career. She released her first album, True Beauty, in 2007. But behind the powerful voice and Grammy-winning albums was a woman who had battled severe depression for years. In a 2017 Good Morning America interview, Mandisa revealed her friend's death had left her questioning her faith and struggling with her mental health in ways that nearly cost her life. She admitted things got so bad that if she hadn't changed course, she wouldn't have survived. Friends staged an intervention that inspired her last album, Out of the Dark, released that same year. The album landed at number 43 on the Billboard 200 and earned her a Grammy nomination. She won her only Grammy in 2014 for the album Overcomer, though she notably skipped the award ceremony. On her website, she explained she stayed away because of her busy schedule, her reluctance to have her appearance critiqued, and because she'd been struggling with worldly temptations. She wrote about falling prey to flesh, pride, and selfish desires. The exact circumstances of her death remain under investigation, leaving fans and fellow artists with haunting questions about what happened in those final moments. Osinachi Nwachukwu's tragic end. Nigerian gospel singer Osinachi Nwachukwu achieved international fame through her vocals on the hit song Ekwueme by Prosper Ochimana, but her death on April 8, 2022 revealed a horrifying secret. The 42-year-old singer died after spending 5 days on life support in an Abuja hospital. Initial reports claimed she died of cancer, but her sister Favor Maid came forward with a devastating truth. According to multiple family members and colleagues, Osinachi had been beaten and kicked in the chest by her husband, Peter Nwachukwu, resulting in clusters of blood that ultimately killed her. Gospel singer Frank Edwards, who had worked with Osinachi, broke down on social media saying he witnessed the abuse firsthand, but didn't realize the full intensity of what she endured. He expressed disbelief that someone could be jealous of the wife he claimed to love. Another friend, Chidinma Ezigo, revealed even more disturbing details. She said Peter had tied Osinachi up and forced their children to beat her with a cane. The abuse had been ongoing for years, but Osinachi suffered in silence, afraid to leave. Pastor Paul Enenche, who leads Dunamis International Gospel Center, where Osinachi served in ministry, reportedly had no knowledge of the abuse. His daughter posted on Facebook that her father had always been an advocate for leaving deeply unhealthy marriages. Peter Nwachukwu was arrested shortly after Osinachi's death and charged with 23 counts, including domestic violence and culpable homicide. Despite initially claiming his wife died of lung cancer, he was found guilty. On April 28, 2025, a federal Capital Territory High Court in Abuja sentenced him to death by hanging. J.B. Mance lost in a house fire. On December 4, 2024, firefighters in Jackson, Mississippi responded to a house fire on Newport Street around 2 a.m. Inside the burning rubble, they discovered the body of 97-year-old J.B. Mance, known throughout the gospel world as the Godfather of Gospel. Mance led the group J.B. Mance and the Soul Conciliators and was famous for songs like Hold On and Don't Trust a Snake. The news sent shockwaves through Jackson's tight-knit community, where Mance had been a pillar for decades. Stevie J. Blues, who toured with Mance as his guitarist for years, was devastated by the tragic circumstances. He told reporters that Mance taught him how to be professional, how to be a gentleman, and how to respect his craft. Blues described him as a national figure whose songs were known everywhere. The loss was felt deeply, not just in gospel circles, but throughout Jackson. Tyrone Bully, owner of Bully's Soul Food Restaurant, said Mance was a regular customer and best friend who came by every week for his favorite meals, including oxtails and vegetable beef soup. Bully remembered customers would sometimes playfully argue over who got the biggest ham hocks when Mance was there. A photo of Mance smiling and pointing to a snake hung in the restaurant, referencing his hit song, Never Trust a Snake. Family members described him as one of the most caring and compassionate people to ever live, making the circumstances of his death all the more heartbreaking. For someone who spent nearly a century spreading joy through music, dying alone in a house fire seemed impossibly cruel. The investigation into how the fire started continues, leaving the community searching for answers about what happened that early December morning. Pedro Henrique collapses on stage. Brazilian gospel singer Pedro Henrique was performing live at a private event on December 13, 2023, when something went terribly wrong. The 30-year-old was singing his song Vai Ser Tão Lindo on the edge of the stage, interacting with the crowd when he suddenly lost his balance. Video footage captured the horrifying moment Henrique fell backward onto the stage. Audience members rushed to help as shocked concertgoers watched in disbelief. He was quickly taken to a nearby medical clinic where he was pronounced dead. His record label, Toda Music, confirmed he suffered a massive heart attack. The tragedy was especially devastating because Henrique was at the beginning of what promised to be an incredible career. He had built a following of over 1.1 million Instagram followers by posting singing videos to YouTube. His first album, Grande é o Senhor, released in 2017, had established him as a rising star known for messages of optimism and positivity. Toda Music released a beautiful tribute, calling him a happy young man who was a friend to everyone. They described him as a present husband and super dedicated father, noting he was an only child. The suddenness of his death shocked the gospel community across Brazil and beyond. Here was a young man full of life and promise, singing about how beautiful things would be when his heart simply gave out. The live stream meant thousands witnessed his final moments, making the tragedy feel even more immediate and real. His death served as a stark reminder that even the youngest and seemingly healthiest can be taken without warning, leaving families, fans, and fellow artists grappling with the fragility of life. Stephen Hill dies during sound. Check on October 1st, 2017, gospel singer Stephen Hill arrived at a venue for a concert, ready to prepare for another evening of praise. The 55-year-old tenor had performed at countless Gaither homecoming events and worked as a session singer with legends including Randy Travis, Dolly Parton, and George Younce. But during the sound check that Sunday evening, Hill suddenly collapsed. Despite immediate efforts to help, he died at the scene. The Gaither Music website released a statement describing Hill as a gentle giant with a kind, soft-spoken nature and a tenor voice as versatile as it was beautiful. Born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina, where he attended Woodmont High School, Hill had moved to Tennessee to pursue his music career. His voice had graced numerous Gaither homecoming DVDs and television specials, and he'd collaborated with some of the biggest names in gospel and country music, including Marie Osmond, Jake Hess, Jesse Dixon, and Mark Lowry. What made Hill's death particularly poignant was that he died doing exactly what he loved, in the moment before sharing his gift with an audience that would never get to hear him sing that night. The statement from Gaither emphasized his sincere heart for people and for sharing the hope of Christ throughout his career. Friends and family remembered him as dearly loved by everyone who knew him. Hill left behind a wife and 3 children who had to process not just his death, but the sudden, unexpected nature of it. He had simply shown up to work to do what he'd done hundreds of times before and never made it to the performance. For someone whose life revolved around music and ministry, dying in that sacred space between preparation and performance felt both fitting and impossibly sad. Vanessa Brown Knowles' fatal car crash. On October 2, 2024, 63-year-old Vanessa Brown Knowles was driving on Interstate 55 in Jefferson County when tragedy struck. A tractor-trailer driven by Richard Allen Holden, reportedly traveling at about 70 miles per hour, crashed into slowed traffic near a construction zone. 8 vehicles were involved in the massive accident, resulting in 3 deaths, including Vanessa's, and 5 injuries. Holden was later charged with 3 counts of second-degree involuntary manslaughter. Vanessa was a beloved member of the Stellar Award-winning quartet Lisa Knowles Smith and the Brown Singers. The group had just won 2 Stellar Awards in 2024 for their album Live in Memphis 2, making the timing of her death even more heartbreaking. Her voice could be heard on songs including Work on Me, Jesus is on the Main Line, and Never Really Know. She had been integral to the group's success and ministry. The gospel community mourned the loss of a woman whose voice had touched countless lives. The suddenness of the accident, the violence of it, stood in stark contrast to the peace and joy Vanessa had spent her life creating through music. Interstate accidents happen every day, but when they claim someone who dedicated their life to ministry, the loss feels especially cruel. Her family and fellow singers had to grapple not just with grief, but with the randomness of it all. She was simply driving, going about her day, when a truck driver's speed in a construction zone ended everything. The investigation and charges against Holden provided some accountability, but nothing could bring back the voice that had lifted so many spirits or fill the void left in the Brown Singers. Richard Smallwood's final days gospel legend. Richard Smallwood died on December 31, 2024, at the age of 77 after years of health struggles. The 8-time Grammy-nominated singer passed away from complications of kidney failure at a rehabilitation and nursing center in Sandy Spring, Maryland. His representative, Bill Carpenter, said music had been what kept Smallwood alive all those years, giving him the strength to endure despite his failing health. Smallwood had revolutionized gospel music in ways few others had. Born in Atlanta on November 30, 1948, he began playing piano by ear at age 5 and took formal lessons by 7. By 11, he had formed his own gospel group. He was raised in Washington, D.C. by his mother Mabel and stepfather Reverend Chester Lee Smallwood, who pastored Union Temple Baptist Church. At Howard University, Smallwood became a pioneer, joining the school's first gospel group called the Celestials and helping found the university's gospel choir. After college, he taught music at the University of Maryland before forming the Richard Smallwood Singers in 1977. He later created Vision, a large choir that produced some of his biggest hits. His song, Total Praise, became what his representative called a modern-day hymn, performed in churches of all denominations across America and beyond. Singer and songwriter Chaka Khan wrote on Facebook that Smallwood opened up her whole world of gospel music. She said his music didn't just inspire her, it transformed her, calling him her favorite pianist whose brilliance and devotion shaped generations. The fact that Smallwood's body finally gave out on the last day of the year felt symbolic, as if one era of gospel music ended with him. His death marked the loss of not just a voice or a musician, but an architect of the contemporary gospel sound that continues to influence artists today. Mahalia Jackson's historic passing. When Mahalia Jackson died on January 27, 1972, at just 60 years old, it felt like the world had lost royalty. The Queen of Gospel passed away from heart disease at a hospital in Chicago after years of health struggles that included a heart attack in 1964 and exhaustion that forced her to cut short a 1952 European tour. But even as doctors warned her to slow down, Jackson refused, collapsing while on tour in Munich in 1971. Her death made international headlines, with President Richard Nixon releasing a statement calling her one of the greatest women of the day. The funeral in New Orleans, Jackson's birthplace, was legendary. Approximately 45,000 to 50,000 mourners passed by her open-glass enclosed mahogany casket during a 7-hour period at the River Gate. People stood in line for hours in cold winds to pay their respects, and yellow school buses brought children from throughout the city. The River Gate stayed open all night to accommodate the crowds. Newspapers from around the country and Europe covered the funeral. Jackson was clothed in a long blue satin gown with gold and silver sequins, holding the Bible in her hands. A choir of 550 singers performed, joined by Aretha Franklin, who sang, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." Jackson's influence extended far beyond music. She had been a major force in the civil rights movement, performing regularly with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and singing at the 1963 March on Washington, just before his "I Have a Dream" speech. She sang at his funeral in 1968, at his last request. Born into poverty in New Orleans in 1911, Jackson had become a pioneering figure who brought gospel music to mainstream audiences. Her estate was valued at $4 million at the time of her death. The inscription on her tomb at Providence Memorial Park Cemetery in Metairie reads, "The world's greatest gospel singer." Edwin Hawkins and the Price of Fame. When Edwin Hawkins died on January 15, 2018, at his home in Pleasanton, California, gospel music lost one of its true innovators. He was 74 years old and had been battling pancreatic cancer. Hawkins had essentially invented the modern gospel sound with his 1969 hit, "Oh Happy Day," a song that became an unexpected crossover sensation and changed everything. Born in Oakland on August 19, 1943, Hawkins was already playing keyboards for his family's gospel band by age 7. In May 1967, he and Betty Watson founded the Northern California State Youth Choir of the Church of God in Christ, which included almost 50 members. They recorded their first album, "Let Us Go Into the House of the Lord," at a church in Berkeley, simply to raise money for the choir to travel to a youth congress in Washington, D.C. One of the album's 8 tracks was "Oh Happy Day," an 18th century hymn that Hawkins had arranged in a call and response style with a Latin-tinged soul groove. The song featured Dorothy Combs Morrison on lead vocals, repeatedly interjecting "Good God" into the lyrics in a manner that was revolutionary for gospel music at the time. A San Francisco underground rock DJ happened to pick up the album and started playing "Oh Happy Day" on his station. The song became an instant hit, eventually reaching number 4 on the Billboard Pop chart and number 2 on the R&B chart. It sold over 7 million copies and permanently altered the direction of gospel music. George Harrison cited it as inspiration for his hit "My Sweet Lord." Hawkins won 4 Grammys throughout his career, but the success came with pressures he never anticipated. He told USA Today in 1991 that he wasn't planning on going into the music business, that the record's success decided his fate. He died at home surrounded by family, his contributions to contemporary gospel secure, but his life cut short by disease. James Cleveland's controversial legacy. Reverend James Cleveland died on February 9, 1991, in Culver City, California, at age 59. The official cause of death was listed as congestive heart failure after he reportedly fell into a coma shortly before passing. Over 8,000 people gathered for his funeral service at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles, a testament to his massive influence as the King of Gospel. But within a year of his death, 2 men filed lawsuits against Cleveland's estate that would expose secrets he'd kept hidden throughout his career. 34-year-old Andre McIsaac and 22-year-old Christopher Harris had both lived with Cleveland, McIsaac as a common-law adopted son and Harris as a foster son. Harris claimed in his lawsuit that Cleveland had died of AIDS and had infected him with HIV. The news broke nationally, forcing the gospel community to confront uncomfortable truths about one of its biggest stars. Born in Chicago in 1931, Cleveland had revolutionized gospel music by incorporating elements of blues, soul, pop, and jazz into traditional hymns. He taught piano to Aretha Franklin, wrote over 400 songs, and appeared on more than 100 albums. His 1963 album, Peace Be Still, featuring the song of the same name, remained on gospel charts for 15 years and sold over 1 million copies. In 1972, he collaborated with Aretha on her Grammy-winning album, Amazing Grace, still considered one of the greatest gospel albums of all time. He founded the Gospel Music Workshop of America and established his own church, Cornerstone Institutional Baptist, in Los Angeles, which had over 7,000 members at the time of his death. Cleveland had earned 4 Grammy Awards and a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But the lawsuits revealed a hidden life that contradicted his public ministry. Harris's case was eventually settled out of court. The revelations sparked discussions about closeted homosexuality in the Black church and the toll of living a double life. Cleveland's musical genius remained undeniable, but his legacy became forever complicated by the secrets that emerged only after he was gone. Jubilant Sykes' shocking murder. On December 9, 2025, police in Santa Monica, California, responded to a 911 call reporting an assault in progress at approximately 9:20 p.m. When officers arrived at the residence, they found Grammy-nominated opera and gospel singer Jubilant Sykes suffering from critical stab wounds. Paramedics pronounced the 71-year-old dead at the scene. The suspect, Sykes' 31-year-old son, Micah Sykes, was found inside the residence and taken into custody without incident. Police recovered a weapon at the scene, but the circumstances surrounding the incident remained under investigation. Born in Los Angeles in 1954, Sykes had begun singing soprano as a child before his voice matured into a powerful baritone. Throughout his decades-long career, he performed at hundreds of major venues worldwide, including the Metropolitan Opera, Deutsche Oper Berlin, Carnegie Hall, Kennedy Center, Apollo Theater, and Hollywood Bowl. In 2010, he received a Grammy nomination for Best Classical Album for his performance in Leonard Bernstein's Mass, in which he sang the celebrant role. Sykes had told NPR in 2002 that singing was like breathing for him, an extension of who he was. He described his passion for music as something that came naturally, not something he thought of as extraordinary. Vienna Hayes, Sykes' cousin, told reporters he was an amazing singer, person, and personality who was just a light. She said he was always doing things throughout the world but never forgot where he came from. The fact that his own son allegedly killed him made the tragedy almost incomprehensible. Forensic specialists continued processing physical evidence as the case prepared to be presented to the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office. The gospel and opera communities mourned the loss of an extraordinary talent whose life ended in violence that seemed impossible to reconcile with the beauty he spent his career creating.